Hello, Earth Angels, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Academy. It is going to be a fun one today. I am bringing on one of my friends, my new friends, Lauren. And you guys know that I've been on this feminine journey. I've been doing the thing, I've been putting myself out there a little bit, and I'm ready to kind of like get a little bit more serious about it. So, long story short, on TikTok, I did this TikTok that was about like all the things that I'm into. And I'm like, where's my people? Like, comment below if you're one of my people. And I remember there was like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 people that commented. And I like looked at their profile because I'm always just, curious. And I was, I think, bored that day. So I go to Lauren's profile and she's talking about like feminine dating. And you guys know I've been on a feminine journey. So I've just been like interested in that type of content. And it was from a new frame that I've ever heard it before. It was very rooted in energetics. And so I was like, I'm just going to follow her. So I just followed her. And then I was consuming her content for maybe a week. And I don't know, I just had a ping that kept coming through of like, you should bring Lauren on your podcast, like talk about feminine dating. And I've actually been dealing with some of my own, like, I don't want to call them blocks, but just internal things of like not really wanting to put myself out there enough. And so I was like, you know what? If I'm dealing with this, I know my audience is probably dealing with this too. So yeah, that's why Lauren's coming on, but I'm so excited to have her. Her name is Lauren and she is a feminine dating coach. So welcome to Alignment Academy, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here because like you said, like while I do teach from the energetics, like that's why I followed you. And when I saw your post, I was like, I want to be friends. Like, yes, I have to comment on here. And that was honestly the first time I've ever commented on like someone's thing like that. And so here we
Look
are,
where it brought
divinely
you.
aligned.
Yeah. So this
Exactly.
is you guys is like this is your reminder to shoot your shot, even if it's just commenting
Hmm.
on a creator that you likes, uh, you know, TikTok, you never know where it can land you. And that's what I kind of love about the internet. And when you're playing in the world of energetics and like the quantum field, it's like you just never know what's going to end up where and why. So it's kind of just a fun game with the universe.
Exactly. I love that.
Well, I would love for you just to start out by sharing a little bit about what you do, how you got here, and your journey
Hmm.
of becoming a dating coach.
Yes. Okay. Let's get into it. So, I coach women on how to attract a man using their energy. And while, yes, it is feminine energy, it's like awakening your own feminine energy because when we grow up in a masculine society, we learn all these rules and ways of being that are actually blocking us from love. And this is our conditioning, this masculine conditioning that makes us put up walls and protect ourselves. And I want every woman to know that she is the creator of her reality. And that's not specific to love, but it definitely includes love. And I love saying this too is like the man is not separate from you. And when you can truly, fully love yourself, that's when we can allow love in. So I think that life is a self love game. And there's another quote that I'll talk about later that gets into emotions, but feminine energy is of the body, is
Mm.
emotions. And I'm sure we know through Joe Dispenza's work that the body is the subconscious mind. And so when we can feel into our body and we can allow more rather than allow us to experience more, to feel more rather than blocking it and judging it and having all these rules, then that's where we can allow love in. So I teach women on raising their vibration to become the frequency of love so that you can attract love because love attraction says that like attracts like, and we know that. And so that's where my journey started, was so many failed relationships. And I finally looked in the mirror and I was like, wow, the problem is me because I'm the common denominator. And I say that just because when we realize that perhaps the problem is us, that's actually a very empowering position to be in because you're also the solution. So it's not that there's anything wrong with you. You're not damaged goods. You're not broken. It's actually a very opportunistic place to be to start to look within. And I'd heard all these quotes before, in my 20s, that everything is within you and all these feminine quotes. And I was like, what the heck does that even mean? Like, I'm out here trying to do all the things and, have all the things, be all the things. And like, what does that mean? I'm trying to get. And that was where we go wrong, especially with love. And a woman my way of teaching is that the feminine is desire led. And desire is an emotion. It's that feeling, that impulse that
Mm.
draws us towards something. So when we can permission ourselves into more of what we desire, more of what we want, just on a day to day basis, and just taking time for ourselves to create that connection, we can truly see that, oh, wow, I actually don't necessarily need all these external things to bring me love and joy and pleasure, that I can feel it first. And we know that we need to be feeling things first before we actually manifest them. So, and this is not about, I'll just make this final note here on this piece, but it's like, this is not about being always high vibe and all the things, but we do more often than not need our dominant vibration, as Abraham Hicks says, one of my favorite, law of attraction people that I follow, is that we need the dominant vibration to be in a high vibe in order for us to be in that receiving mode, to
Mm.
receive love, that which we want. So when we can stop complaining about the dating pool, thinking that it's a struggle, thinking that, men are the problem, then we can just allow ourselves to be, and we allow more of this receptive mode, and we're open to the opportunities. And that is the feminine. That is the openness. That is the being and the presence and the being enough right here and now, not needing something to make your experience better.
I love how you teach dating because it is so you focused versus outer focused, right? Where I feel like most people teach dating of like just get on the apps and put yourself out there. And it's like you're actually saying, like, no, figure out what's within you that is blocking
Mm-hmm.
you from the experiences that you want. And let's change you because you're the projector of your reality in this virtual reality game. Now, I'm curious, one of the things that you mentioned was that you realized that you were the common denominator and something wasn't working within you. So, can you tell us a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more about that journey of like what was the issue now that you have hindsight? Like, were you too much in your masculine? Were you not feeling worthy? Like, what was that common denominator that you were attracting, I guess, unaligned partners?
Yeah, yeah.
Or
So
nothing at
a
all,
few things.
maybe.
Exactly. I've done the toxic relationships. I've had, sort of a vanilla kind of roommate like relationship. I've had, hot and steamy for 2 months and then boom, blows up in my face. So like I've had it all, situationships, things like that. And it was through those experiences that it's like I saw how I was tolerating behavior. So a lot of times in our wounded feminine, we are overgiving. I would be available at any time that he needed because I thought that that meant that that was going to build our relationship when that wasn't actually keeping my own worth in check. I was like, I was too available. McDonald's is a certain price for a reason, whereas, a very high end restaurant, they're not as available for a reason. And so when we have those boundaries, that's where our value, we increase our own value. Another thing too with this, too much in my masculine of like controlling things, like always having the preference and thinking that my choice was the better choice than my boyfriend's, which caused this sort of like roommate like relationship with this man.
Mm.
And because I just didn't trust him to make the choice for us. But then what happens is, or what did happen for me, it's like when I was in my masculine, then I'm stepping on his toes and I'm not creating space. I'm not allowing because whatever his choice was, I was going to judge and it wasn't going to be good enough.
Mm.
And that doesn't feel good for either of us.
Do you think he was
And
in his feminine though?
I think a little bit, yeah. Well, had I given him the chance perhaps to be more in his masculine, maybe he would have. But I think he was just kind of flowing and like maybe he was enjoying sort of this, just like, this is easy. So maybe he was enjoying it. I can't fault him for that. But I do think that probably my masculine attracted a more feminine man that was just like, okay, like, I, in that case, I want a man to kind of like put me in my place now. I'm like,
Yeah,
sit me
it's
down and be
kind of
like,
hot
girl.
when people have boundaries and they tell you what you can and can't do. You don't want someone who you can walk
Yes.
all over necessarily.
Yes, exactly. So he was maybe a little too soft for me. It ended up causing me to be bored. And that's what kind of created this roommate like dynamic. And I was like, this is boring for me. Like, like we could turn this passion on a little bit, but it was just like, where's the day-to-day spice? Where's the polarity? Where's the, it's just like I was always thinking 10 steps ahead and I was like, I don't even know where he's at. Yeah, so tolerating things, being too in my masculine, over giving, people pleasing, and it caused this inauthenticity. And then I didn't feel safe to express my desire because I thought expressing my desire meant that I would make someone else wrong. So I was trying to protect their emotions before actually taking care of me. And when really, if we just had different desires, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or they're wrong. It just meant that we might have differences. And maybe I wasn't quite ready to deal with the repercussions of that, which would be, hey, we need to just split up and go our own ways because that's what's going to be best for both of us. And that's what I finally came to realize is like through some of these relationships is like, yeah, we just need to go our own ways. And as I've dated, more being in my feminine energy over the past 2 years I've dated, I've seen dating now as a way to grow. I'm like, oh, I get to go in, express my desire, have my standards, have my boundaries, and I'm going to learn from this. My desire is going to expand because I'm going to know more of what I want, more of what I don't want from this person. Like, let's say they don't have good communication. Then I'm like, oh, yeah, I want a man who has good communication. Okay. Like, thank you for your time. It's been great getting to know you. And I'm moving forward. This is now I have a new bare minimum standard for communication and things like that. So dating will show us a lot if we can start to build that self-awareness around what is it showing me? What do I truly want? What's my standard? What am I available for? And then we can go forward from there,
I think
match to it.
that's such a powerful reframe. And it's funny because me and you were talking on the phone yesterday and kind of like I think that your expertise is dating and mine is business, but we were talking about how there were so many parallels with it. And I look
Mhm.
at business as a tool just as you look at dating as a tool, right? It's like I'm like, well,
Yeah.
whatever is going on in your business is just reflecting you back like what you think you're worthy of. And you're saying the same exact thing. You're like, just use your dating experiences as a tool to see where your energy's at, where you need to raise your standards, where
Mhm.
you need to look within to see why the problem is happening without, right? And it's such a big thing
Exactly.
that I teach in my work is like reflections. Your reflections that you're getting, whether it's a human reflection, a business reflection, what your triggers, your reflections are going to tell you everything you need to know about what's going on in your internal world. You just have to learn how to read the patterns and understand them. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about using dating as a tool. Like for someone, even
Mhm.
like, okay, me, I just started dating. I haven't really been going consistently on dates. I've maybe gone on like 3 dates in the last 6 months, right? And I've shared with you and I've shared with my audience, like I've realized I've been very, very much in my masculine. I've been doing a lot of work on my feminine energy, learning how to be softer, learning how to be more in that receiving mode, learning how to like make small moments like a ritual and really feel the essence of like even small moments that I'm like driving in my car, listening to beautiful music or I'm cooking, setting up the vibe and putting a candle on and making it a beautiful experience. Like I really feel like I have been made leeway of of stepping more into my feminine, right? But let's just use me
Mhm.
as an example because we don't have anyone else to use as an example here.
Yeah.
How can I use my reflections of even like, okay, things are kind of slow right now because sometimes we can't force having people to date. So we have reflections. So how would you coach me through like getting more dates or using whatever reflection I'm having right now to kind of change what's ever going on internally so I can have the reflection that I desire?
Yeah. Okay. Really good. Yes. So the first thing is like this belief around, how can I get more dates? Well, what if it's simply a quality over quantity? What if the next man that you meet could be the one? We don't know. He doesn't have to be, but he could be, right? So all possibilities exist. And
True.
so, yes. Amen, Joe Dispenza. All possibilities exist.
In the
We
quantum
love the
field.
quantum.
I
Yes.
love Joe Dispenza girlies. I just love it.
So, kind of looking at what are the current thoughts that you're having about your ability to get a date
Mm,
and how can you funnel this pleasure through you like you're setting up a candle and really treating yourself as you're cooking and things like that, and then how can you take that same level of pleasure and like walk to get a coffee and it's you're having a little chat with the barista. And, even if he seems short, what if it's just like having some compassion in your heart of like, maybe he's having a bad day and like it's not about me, like
Hmm.
not really making it about you. And really believing in the possibility. So I call this like a little dating delulu, like create the
Yeah.
vision of having the man. And it's like, yeah, like I already have the man. I love this mantra. He loves me, protects me, and provides for me. I used to say that on repeat because I was like, that's what I want. So why would I not start to like believe that and like just use that
Mm.
as something that feels really good to me? I will say, last thing on the quality over quantity is like, I very much don't suggest or encourage really getting on the dating apps because I think you can do it in person. And I think what's missing a lot from our society is this connection. And women
Wow.
bring this connection. When we are open in our energy, it's like we're connectors.
Hmm.
And so being willing to have a conversation with someone at a coffee shop or the barista or just talking, having good conversation with your Uber driver, rather than us always being on our phones, looking down, if you're grabbing produce off the produce shelf and maybe there's a dude next to you, it's like you can maybe crack a joke about something
Yeah.
and it just opens the door. And I always say your energy is a door. It's either open or it's closed. And if we
Mm.
aren't thinking into the possibility and really connecting with our environment, we're not really playing in this realm of possibility. So you can open the door by being more curious, being more playful, being open for that conversation. And even before that, I would say though, too. So if you were coming to me first and foremost, it'd be like, okay, well, what has worked for you in the past and what hasn't? And what is it that you do want? So knowing what you do want, being able to define, okay, these are the things that I do want. And you mentioned softening into your feminine, which I think sometimes we're like, yeah, soften into your feminine. We hear it all the time. You know what it to me, it really is softening the ego. It's softening our mind. It's softening the
Hmm.
judgment around the men that are in our lives, men that we
Wow.
encounter, the past disappointments. Like, can we have compassion for the ex that we think wronged us and forgive? Because we know forgiveness is not necessarily for them, it's for us to allow our energy to move forward.
Mm.
So, softening, I would not be dating the man that I'm dating right now if I hadn't softened my ego because I had a judgment of him for an entire year. And until I met him in person, and I chose the fork in the road was either connection or judgment. And there he was in a coffee shop. And I was like, you know what? I don't even know this person. I've just judged him through what I've seen online. I'm going to connect. And I just asked him a question, opened the door. Boom.
I
Felt really
s-
good. I listened to
yeah.
my body and there we are.
I love that. I love that. And I've heard your story on your TikTok quite a bit of like you judged him when you saw him in a community group and you were like he looks weird and then
Mm-hmm.
you saw him in person and you were open. And I think that that was one of the key things that I really wanted to talk about when you were sharing like talk to the barista, talk to the, person that's next to you in line. Like I think that sometimes we think like am I interested in them? That's when I need to talk to them. But it's about being open to connection in general, right? It's not only about being
Yeah.
open when it's the person that you're going to date next. It's like, let me
Mm-hmm.
just open the door to this because you have no idea how the universe works, right? It's like you could start up a conversation with the person that's buying a butter next to you, and then their guy friend comes up, and then all of a sudden you're in a conversation with three people, and it's like, the possibilities are endless of how it could happen. It really, really is. And so I think that that was one thing that I wanted to touch on is I think that sometimes when we're in this energy of like manifestation, we try to hyper control like, okay, I'm going to keep my energy open. Where's the cute guy that I can talk to? Where is the cute guy? It's not about that. It's like we have to just be in the energy of the open door. And so my next question for you is
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about how you said your energy is like a door. It's either open or it's closed. How do we have
Yeah.
open door energy? Today's episode is brought to you by Alignment Academy, the membership. I created this membership to offer a crazy affordable and safe space for you to heal your deepest wounds, build unshakable confidence, and activate your highest timeline. Imagine being surrounded by a community that truly gets you and not feeling freaking crazy or like you're knocked off your path by trigger after trigger after trigger. Because believe me, I've been there. In order to actually heal, you kind of got to sit your booty down and do the freaking work to actually reprogram your subconscious mind and create higher self worth through your actions. When you enroll in Alignment Academy, you're going to gain access to an extensive library of 7 past masterclasses, 6 of my best-selling meditations, along with a new monthly masterclass to help you guys transform, grow, and actually take action towards your goals. Every month, we also have live inner work meditations led by me with topics such as inner child work, shadow work, future visioning, playing in the quantum field, and so much more. And if you're wondering, where the heck is my soul family and why is the spiritual journey so lonely? I'm telling you, they're inside of Alignment Academy. Everyone in there is truly a special frequency. We're all talking about Joe Dispenza meditations. We're talking about entrepreneurship, trailblazing our own path, healing our inner child wounds, shadow work, how to set empowering boundaries. It's such a high vibe conversation, and I can't wait for you to experience it yourself. If you were to buy a live coaching call with me, plus all the masterclasses, plus all the meditations just as one-off things, it would be over $5,000. And I'm offering this all to you for $77 per month. I am calling in people who are here for the long haul and really trying to do the healing work. But if you don't like it, you can cancel anytime. If you're interested in joining us, you can enroll with the link below, and I can't wait to see you inside.
Yeah. So open door energy is, if you look at the emotional scale, which is an Abraham Hicks term, but we have the lower vibrations, the heavier emotions, and we have the higher vibrations: love, joy, peace, happiness, playfulness, curiosity. Those are open door energies. Being in that higher vibration, openness to life, and rather than assuming or, hardcore expecting. Positive expectation is a good thing, but if, there's these expectations that kind of cause limitations, then we're cutting ourselves off. And there's a web of opportunities when we're in that playfulness, curiosity, compassion, and the feminine is unconditional love. Unconditional, as in, I'm going to ask you how your day is. And even if you're short with me, I'm not going to take it personally. It's basically not taking anything personally. And it's like, I wanted to extend, a friendly gesture towards you just because I'm feeling so good, because I'm overflowing in my energy, because I'm in the energy of love, because feminine energy is gifting energy. The masculine gives. The feminine technically gives back. It's more of a gift. It's this desire.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this desire energy. How do we get into desire energy?
Okay. So desire energy is all about validating what it is that you want and doing more of what makes you feel good. So rather than shutting down the things that we desire, like, oh, I really desire, an iced vanilla latte this morning, and you're kind of romanticizing it, but then you're like, oh no, but I really shouldn't because, it's kind of expensive these days. And it's like, if your desire, it's like, follow your desire. There's reasons why we hear so many times, follow your desire, follow your bliss. But the thing is, don't feel guilty doing it. Do it from a place that feels good, because when you're in that place, you're then in the receptive mode. When you're in these higher vibrations, open door energy, you're in the receptive mode. You can receive. And as we said before, then, you might strike up a conversation with someone, and then you never know, that person might know someone who knows someone. When you're feeling good and someone's experiencing you, then they're like, oh my gosh, like, I know someone that would be perfect for you, or whatever. We just never know. And so, yeah, like you said earlier, it's like, we can't just pinpoint like, oh, I'm looking for, this super good looking guy that I can date. It's like, be in the energy of your desire, go where feels good for you so that you can be the open, receptive vessel. The feminine is technically the vessel that's receives. She's made to receive. And when you follow your desire, that's like truly following this thread of authenticity, which again is like, everything is within you. So what do you desire to do? Where do you desire to go? How do you desire to live your life? What activities do you desire to do? Like, I picked up, skating for fun. I mean, pleasure, fun, play. I had no idea what would come of it. Okay, I made some really good friends there. And like, I dated one of the guys, and, it wasn't our forever after, but it was okay, a really good connection and just a way to expand, what feels good for me. And so when you can honor your desire, you really develop it's really a sense of authenticity, and you build your own self-worth and validation through that as well, which men then see how confident you are in following what you desire. And you build trust within yourself too over time on, okay, like, yes, I'm feeling good. This is working out. And, it's like you get to a point where you don't even need a man because you're filling yourself up so much. And that's the magical place where the man pops in.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm also there, but I'm a little too much in my masculine. I'm like, I literally don't need no man. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's finding that beautiful balance between like just being more in this soft energy and like following what feels good. And it's like
Mhm.
almost the opposite of discipline. Like doing something because you need to
Yeah.
do it. It's like doing something because you want to do it and it's going to make you feel good. And like
Yes.
doing it in an energy that is beautiful for you. And even I don't know why this
Yeah.
is coming through, but I'm even seeing like these two potentials, right? Like let's like create a little scenario of somebody, I don't know, going to the grocery store. Super simple. Everyone does it unless you're,
Yeah.
not doing that. But everyone does it and it's like there's one potential where your energy is closed and you walk into a grocery store, your headphones are in, you're not talking to anyone, you just go, get what you need, get out and don't talk to one person. I've done that 1,000 times. I'm sure
Hmm.
everyone's done that 1,000 times. And then there's this other open door energy potential where we drive really slow, we put on music we like, we walk really slowly into the grocery store, we walk through every aisle, we enjoy our time, we look at the new chocolates, we pick out one we desire, we chat up with this old man that's also looking at the chocolate. We go through another aisle, we have a conversation, and it's just more of like a pleasurable, open experience. And even if you don't end up meeting anyone, I feel like that's where we really have to pull
Hmm.
back our energy. It's like, even if you don't meet the love of your life at the grocery store that time, it's still about the act of doing it in the energy of love. Is that right?
Yeah, and just like you said, the experience is such a part of our feminine because the masculine would be outcome oriented. Like we're just doing something to
Mm.
get something. And like yes, the masculine does a lot of things, but it's this experience. And the thing is like it's in your feminine, it's like this feel good. The feminine is for you to feel good. The feminine is not for you to get the man, but it is the avenue through which the man will come because if you honor this feeling good, then you can only attract from there and then you're feeling good so more of that feeling is going to come to you, that love, that joy, that happiness. It's inevitable.
I'm sure you work with a lot of people who want a boyfriend so freaking bad.
Hmm.
How do we work with that energy? Like when you just want something and you are so like outcome oriented and you're just like looking everywhere. I've been in that energy before. I wouldn't say I'm in that energy now, but I've been in that energy where everywhere I go, I'm like, who's here? Who's here? Like, where is my new boyfriend here? And how do we get ourselves out of that energy of desperation and
Hmm.
into a more open energy?
Yeah. So it's a lot of reframing. Like, okay, noticing this anxious anxiety, desperation, seeking energy, that's outward energy. And it's like, we have to recognize, are we there to have fun or are we there to get something? Once again, is there a goal? Or are you just there to experience and, laugh with your friends and just, and this is where a lot of times we will see that, or my clients will see, and I have seen it myself. It's like, oh, I don't actually want to be here. I think my energy actually might be better served at home by myself, which is a
Always.
very okay place to be. It's okay. And then we start to say no to the things that we're like, no, that actually doesn't fill me up. And we might need some of this transition time to kind of recalibrate that. But when we're doing this seeking, getting energy, and it's like, I just want the boyfriend so bad. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like, how do you want to feel with said boyfriend, man, future husband? Because all we want out of getting anything in life, the man, the money, the title, the house, the whatever, all we want is the experience of it. We want the emotion of it. So I'm like, okay, how do you want to feel? I have women outline what is it that you want. I'm like, okay, what do you want with a man? Where do you see your future? Now, how do those translate and how do you want to feel? And they're like, I want to feel peace. I want to feel safe. I want to feel joy. I want to feel all these things. And that we start from there of how do you give yourself more of that? Because life is an emotional game and it all starts with us. It's a projection of who we are being because we attract who we are being.
So good. And so
Mhm.
I really want to talk about, you mentioned like, I don't think you need to get on dating apps. This is such a contradiction to what most people are saying. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that. Why don't you think that we need to use dating apps? Is it bad to use dating apps? Like, tell us all the things dating apps.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, it's not technically bad to be on a dating app. And we know that people meet on dating apps and they get married and they live happily ever after. But I do think that it creates this false sense of validation. It's like, oh, I'm going to go on the dating app and get the validation that I should be giving myself. Or it puts women a lot of times in this seeking energy. If she's not aware of her energy from the beginning, if you have a solid sense of awareness, I do think the dating apps can work for you. So if you know what you want, you have good standards and boundaries, and you know that you're not going to take on the masculine role of trying to move things forward, that, you might show interest in a few people and then you're going to kind of hang back and see, okay, are they going to lead the conversation? How, and then having that boundary, these get very subtle, having a boundary on how much conversation am I going to entertain before I'm like, we need to, like, I'm just going to say no, like, it's been good chatting with you, but, I'm not going to chat with you for 2 weeks. I'm saying like this is a mental conversation you're having with yourself
Mhm.
around your boundary of like, we're moving this forward. If in expressing your intentions too, this desire of, I know that for me, I want to be married and have kids and I want a family and I want, I'm in an era of building and growing my life. And over the past 2 years, I will only date someone if they want, the same things that I want, because that to me is a waste of time. I don't think dating people that might not work out forever is not a waste of time because you're always going to find more of what you want and what you don't want, but know what you want and make sure the person sitting in front of you wants the same things. Otherwise, then, you're wasting your time if you're waiting for them to change their mind or you're hoping they're going to change for you. That's a lot of these kind of subtle mistakes that happen in relationships when, and the women get disappointed. And it's like, well, were you really clear on what you wanted from the beginning? Rather than trying to make him change and then you're getting your own worthiness out of that, out of like, oh, I made him change for me or want the same things as me. So dating apps, going back to that, it's like you can definitely be on a dating app, but you want to have those boundaries and standards in place and be willing to say no to someone who might kind of be stringing you along or might not be as serious as you are, because a lot of times women are afraid to say no or to cut someone off because there's a little bit of scarcity. They're like, well, I don't know when the next man is going to show interest and all of this. It's like, whoa, again, all possibilities exist. Maybe if you said no to this one, you cut off the energy, boom, tomorrow the energy's open now and the man walks in, whether wherever you meet him or whatever. But cutting off the energy and having the belief again in this abundant perspective.
I think that's so important to hold an abundance mindset while you're dating. It's like anything, I'm like again gonna put it back to business. It's like clients, like you can't hold on to the person that's like not replying back to you and is like just like getting on the call late. It's like there's an abundance of clients and there's going to be one that like treats you right and respects you and wants to just pay in full and that's it. And so it's like you have to have that abundance mindset. And I think it is really, really easy when dating. Like I know me, it's like you're like, I don't know when the next thing's going to come along. So should I just entertain this for a little bit? But it's I think that that's why this is such an energetic game. It's like we have to really be operating from a place of already feeling whole without like you have to be such a value add to my life and being like it's not you,
Hmm.
it's someone else that I'm willing to wait. And I think for me one of the things that I had to kind of come to terms with when I was going through my like pretty bad breakup and like I think that there was a point where I was like I just need a new boyfriend. Like there was a point where I was like feeling like that and I got out of it pretty fast, but what I had to kind of come to terms with is Kristen, you don't know when you're going to meet your next partner. Like you don't. You don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. And you also don't know if it's going to be in 10 years. And
Hmm.
when you actually come face to face with that worst case scenario, like I could be single for 10 years. I don't know. I mean, I hope not, but
Hmm.
I don't know. And I really like sat with that and I like became okay with it. And I was like, okay, so I actually have no control over this. I think I do. All I have control over it is my energy. I think I do, but I don't. And so I am just going to fall in love with my life. And since that moment, that's what I've been doing. I've just been creating the life where I'm like, okay, if I don't ever have a partner come in, I'm still obsessed with my life. And that's where I've been. And I think that we have to get to that place. And, you know, just from my point of view on this as well, this is why I always tell my clients, I'm like, you have to focus on your soul's purpose. Because for me, I'm like, I feel like if I didn't have my soul's purpose to focus on, I would be even more looking for a man and focused on like that would be my main thing. But because I feel so fulfilled in my purpose and my podcast, and I'm pouring so much of my own energy into my own things, I'm like, I actually fucking love my life right now. And if it weren't to change for literally 10 years, like I honestly believe that I would be okay inside. There's no other option for me to be okay, but I'm going to not only be okay, I'm going to choose to thrive in this time alone. I am quickly interrupting this episode to remind you guys that if you're a listener, which clearly you are, I have created a free meditation for all of you. This meditation was built out of my rock bottom when I needed to trust the universe and release a lot of anxiety I was feeling, and I didn't know how. So I learned how to trust the universe, and I'm going to teach you how in this meditation. It's really practicing this feeling of being held and supported and remembering that you actually are held and supported by the universe in every single moment. All you have to do to get this meditation is to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and then go ahead and head over to my podcast Instagram at Alignment Academy Podcast. Give it a follow and then message me on there with a screenshot of your rating or review, whatever platform you're listening on, and I will send you the meditation. Okay, now back to the episode.
That is the place to be for sure. Because it's like, yeah, if you don't meet a man for 10 years, which is something that technically you can only control your energy, like you said. So you might as well live your life to the freaking fullest right now. And I absolutely got to that same place as well. And it's like, okay, it's like, even though I trusted that it was going to be inevitable, I was like, all I can do right now is control and create my energy and create my reality for based on how I feel. That's we can only control ourselves. And so we might as well live the most amazing life that we can, because that's where we're going to feel good. That's again following your desire, creating what you want to create, doing the things that you want to do.
I think too, when you're not on the dating apps, it's probably forcing you to be more open in those in-person situations, because you're like, okay, the world is my dating app. Like I got to have my energy open. I need to, stay open. So it's probably just like that reinforcement that there's people everywhere, and, I'm going to meet people if I stay open. Something that we talked about on our phone call yesterday that I kind of want to touch on is, I'm going to play devil's advocate right now, and I want you to answer. What if people are like, well, I don't go anywhere with people, or like I'm only going to the grocery store and like whatever. Like, what would you have to say to that?
Yeah, it's all possibilities exist. You can meet someone anywhere. What if you got a flat tire driving down the road going somewhere, and a man shows up, or maybe a car, pulls over to help you, and it's that man. It can happen anywhere. So when we stop trying to control the how, which we all know that manifestation principles say you cannot control the how, then you just allow your life to happen. And yes, I do recommend leaving the house, but you're going to do things. You're going to do things that you need to do for your day-to-day life. And then I will encourage, do more of what you desire, because you never know what will come of it. So even if that's a feminine based activity or whatever, you never know if those women have brothers, if they have guy friends. It's just, again, these connections that we can make. Even if you're going to a feminine embodiment dance class, they might know someone, and so the possibilities are endless.
I love that. I love that. Do you do anything to prime your energy to get into the feminine? Like, I know obviously too, I'm sure you did it more when you were actively looking for a partner, but like before you go, let's say like I'm about to go to the coffee shop, right? And
Mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm,
not expecting anything, but I just want to keep my energy open. Is there any practices, mantras,
mm-hmm.
things that you do to prime your own energy to get into that energy before you leave the house?
Yeah. And it's okay to get excited about the potential possibility as long as that excitement is like filling you up and then your energy doesn't drop if it doesn't happen because it's like, okay, I'm excited, I'm going, I'm going to do this thing. Looking forward to what it is that you're going to do and enjoying the journey along the way, whether you're walking to the coffee shop, you're listening to music in the car, anything else, dressing up. I think that adorning yourself is a very feminine thing too. So it's like not looking good for someone, but looking good for you because it feels good. So like maybe you put on those like spicy hoops or like put your hair in a certain way, or you're like, you know what, today's cute messy bun day, sweatshirt. Like I'm cute. Like some guy is gonna be like, oh my god, she looks so cute and comfy, you know. And so it's like validating yourself for any state that you're in. So those are some priming things. I would say too. A lot of the work that I did too early on was actually just being with my body. I was so disconnected with my body. So
Mm.
that was something where I was like, sit in front of a mirror and be with yourself,
Like
be with your
naked or what?
body. You can be naked, yeah, and love on the parts of yourself that you think aren't lovable
Mm.
and accept yourself from that place. And so I think a lot of times we are, again, on our phones scrolling or binging Netflix or doing things and changing our habits and being more with ourselves rather than with external things will really shift that focus to this inward focus of like, oh yeah, it all starts with me. And as long as I love myself, that's what matters. And so
Mm.
that's kind of a deeper, kind of more, maybe more like a dark feminine side of things where it's like, yeah, like I am in my body. I feel my body because your body is your vessel and you get one vessel. And so you might as well love it while you're here.
Yeah, I love that so, so much. It all comes back to again like being connected to your emotions and feeling the love you have for you want someone to have for yourself
Hmm.
intentionally. Let's talk about making a move versus allowing them to make the move. Like I can just hear
Mm,
people being like, "Okay, well I do go to places, but they don't come up to me," or "How do I make them ask me on a date?" or like something like that. What would you have to
yeah.
say to that?
Yeah, yeah. So recognize who you're being out in public. Again, like a lots of eye contact, smiling, and these things should come natural if you're feeling good in your body already. If you're of a positive mindset, if you know you're in this open door energy where you're just like, yeah, I'm just excited to be out and about and doing my thing. Because you can have headphones in and be listening to music and bopping along, but you can still make eye contact. You can still smile at people. You can like wiggle your body a little bit, you know, and like it's just that's who you're being, you know, out in public. And so lots of that will is open door energy where people get kind of like curious about you and they're like, oh, okay. Like, and again, this does not have to be you hitting on them because whatever they make of the interaction is not your problem. And I think a lot of times women try to manage the reactions of like, oh, they're going to think I'm hitting on them.
Mm.
Who cares? If they think that, that's their problem. Because what if you're just being a friendly person? If it just feels good for you to engage and interact, that's just who you are. And that for me was a big thing I had to work on of like, oh, they think I'm hitting on them. And it's like, actually, I could just get to be myself, permissioning myself to be fun and, you know, interactive and engaging. And then I call this the feminine invitation. And so we put too much, I think, unnecessary expectation on men to initiate. There's this like, oh, the man needs to, you know, initiate and he needs to approach me. No, he technically doesn't because I think that women give this green light. The women's desire, when she's leading with her desire, that goes first. So showing this desire, because again, this should be unconditional. So even if you're desiring for a man to, you know, to kind of chat with you or whatever, can you give him the green light, but not expect him to like, oh, I want him to ask for my number or you're angry that you know he that you spent time 10 minutes talking with him and he didn't ask for your number. Well, that's then you're getting into that conditional zone of I expected this outcome thing to happen when you can just be gifting your energy, your expression to this man regardless of what happens. And so opening that door for connection, striking up a conversation, you can give a man your number and that's not initiating because you're creating the connection and then leave it open to him to take the next step. That's him and his masculine. And for the right man, it should feel good for him to do that, to make the plan and show, because you basically give the openness, the connection, and then the man will respond on what he's available for. This is a really big piece of desire, too, of making sure that we express our desire for what we want, and then hearing, what is this man available for? Is he available for the same things as me or not? Or is he, so are we on the same page or not? Because that will cut out so much unnecessary, time that we might spend with this person when we could be moving on to the next person who's more aligned with our desires.
Yeah.
So in public, you can definitely be open in making this connection that you might think is an initiation, but I just call it an invitation. Invite the man in and see what he's available for.
That's so good. And I think that there's also, I kind of want to talk too about like allowing things to evolve a little. I think that, I remember in your story, didn't you let you like what wasn't it? I don't know. Tell me about you and your boyfriend, your current boyfriend, but didn't it needed to like evolve a little bit and like it evolved into more?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So we started as just friends. I actually, when I needed to set a boundary with myself. So this would be my masculine energy. Masculine energy is boundaries and standards. Standards and boundaries uphold your desire. So we need those as the supportive piece, but this is why also kind of the feminine starts with the desire. What do you want? And then do your standards and boundaries match that? So I was getting myself into situationships. There was specifically a man who, I could tell he was wealthy and he was young and, we jived on a few things, but I wanted to be married and with kids on the way. And I wanted to be building towards that with someone. And he was definitely not committed to any of that anytime soon. And so I basically got myself into a situationship that left me feeling like, oh, like, why did I even go there? Like, how did I let this happen? And then I was like, new rule, new standard or boundary for myself. I won't date someone until I've seen that they've shown me that they were a friend for a month first. So
Wow.
I needed to have a strong boundary for myself in order to build this trust within myself so that I could prevent myself from hurt that wasn't aligned with my desire. So right after that, and this will, we talk about tests or things, but your energy is realigning. So I made this decision right when I moved to Mexico. And because I said goodbye to situationship man, and I was like, new rule, month long first. I want to be respected by a man first, and I want him to like know me for me. And that's the minimum. I'd been in Mexico for like 2 weeks. Man came in, we were driving, having a good time. And I told him, like, I just want to be friends. I just got here, just want to be friends. Well, he kept pushing. And then I was like, oh, well, okay, this is not what I want. And then guess what? After 2 weeks of us like knowing each other, he got bored and he saw himself out the door. And so he just basically, just
Saw
dissolved.
himself out.
Saw himself out because he wanted one thing, which is sex, which a lot of women give up very early on and then end up getting hurt because they think that sex is going to get them the commitment from the man when we weren't aligned from the beginning. Then I met a man and we were solely just friends at first. We would like play volleyball together. We would spend a lot of time together. We would go out to eat after volleyball. And then, I didn't feel any pushiness, nothing from him. We were just getting to know each other. And then after a month, he was the one. I mean, the timing is funny, but it was literally a month. After a month, he was like, hey, would you consider me like as someone that you're interested in dating? And I was like, and he knew I was a dating coach. And so maybe he felt a little intimidated by that or something, but he respected me and gave me space and we got to know each other to a certain level. And he was like, would you consider to date me? And I was like, yeah, I would. So then we dated. Didn't work out, but I learned from it. And so I just want to note that that's where the boundary started for me to trust myself and to trust that a man will wait for me to know, like, is this aligned or is this not aligned? Mm-hmm. Then what I will say now is when I met my current boyfriend, now I've built so much of this trust within myself. And I've, because of that boundary, like I'm good with expressing my desire. I'm good with having my standards in place and not accepting anything, less than what looks like, I want for myself and my life and what I want to build towards. So over time, I don't need a month to get to know someone because now I know myself on a deeper level and I trust myself. And after I met my current boyfriend in a coffee shop. And then we hung out as friends for about 2 weeks. And we just were meeting up with each other in a working sense. We were like, oh, let's co work together. We kept having conversations. We were having, yeah, like a level of conversation that felt really good. And I felt grounded around him. And I got to see who he was, and he saw who I was and what we were working towards. And we saw a lot of alignment. And then he expressed interest. And I was like, okay.
How
He
did he
expressed
express
interest, but he did.
interest?
So we were co-working together. He had invited me out to his place. He picked me up. He bought us like steak and potatoes for lunch, which is funny. Like he was on like a specific like diet, but I was like, honestly, I'm down. Like cook me steak and potatoes and like we're good. And then we were having a conversation later in the day, and then he was like, it's felt really good getting to know you. He was kind of testing the waters. And so what I did to stay in my feminine was I was like, thank you for expressing what how you feel, or, what you've thought of this interaction, our interactions over the last few weeks. And I said, I feel similarly. And I said, I'm open to what you're available for. I said, I want you to decide. Do you want a full on date, or is that not something that you're available for right now? Because I want to be dated. And so I put the ball back in his court for him to decide.
Damn.
And yeah. And and that was just because I was like, I want a man who knows what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And, that previously for me, that looked like, oh, I want to be in the same room as a man. And I just want him to come over to me and be like, that story of like, oh, I knew she was the one from the moment I saw her. And I was like, you know what? There's my ego creating that story of this like perfect scenario.
God, we always do that.
Yes. And so I still want a man who knows what he wants. And so I was like, you decide. What is it that you want from this, and how do you want to go about it? And I'll decide if I'm available I'll decide if I also want that. Totally. He took 2 days and then he came back and was like, I want to date you. And I said, okay. And I will say then, just to tie this into the kind of like trust and boundary with, ourselves, is that we'd known each other for like 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever. We hadn't slept together. And I knew that was coming, it's coming. and I just had a moment with myself and I was like, okay, this is earlier than a month, but do I trust myself at this point that if I sleep with him, am I going to be okay if he walks away the next day? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I would like, it would suck to a certain level, but I was like, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to it wouldn't affect me as it would in the past. And so while I think it's good to make some boundaries and some rules for ourselves that are kind of, maybe some strict from the beginning, but then we can soften on them as we start to trust ourselves and start to take responsibility for some of the repercussions and just support ourselves more so if, there is a repercussion that we don't desire, but how can we still learn and grow through that?
I love that. When you're in a friend zone with a man like that, do you still kind of force yourself to like be in your feminine? Or when you guys were friends, were you like equally asking him to do things and he was asking you to do things? Or like, do you always try to operate in your feminine around men, or do you allow it like the dynamic to be what it is?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So when it was more in that friend zone, I guess I guess you could say I act like a friend, but it's like I wasn't worried. I like wasn't worried about like double texting or anything like that because my desire was to express. And so, yeah, there were times where I was, messaging him first or, saying like, hey, I'm available for this thing. Like, do you want to go do this thing? And he would say yes or no or whatever. So it was a natural back and forth.
Totally.
And again, but just validating myself from this place of this is not a game. Like I'm not here to play games. I'm here to just be myself and express myself. So sometimes it's a voice note, sometimes it's a text, sometimes I'm sending a funny picture. And the best thing is that if it makes you feel good and you're just, doing it from a place of validating yourself, and if it makes you feel good and you're doing it from that, the feminine is where you feel good, expressing yourself, you get to see how he responds and you get to see
get more data.
Okay, yeah, you get more data. And it's like, oh, is he dismissive when I'm this way? Or does he get intimidated? Or is he this or that? Or does he find it endearing? And it actually, your feminine will inspire a man. And then it actually breaks down this wall of like, oh, now I can send her pictures, or she's good with voice messages. Like, I'm gonna send her a message back. It's like when we just the permission mirrors. And so it's like, oh, when you allow yourself to break down the wall because you're not holding back because you're like, oh, but what if he thinks this or that? What if you just do what you want to do and then you see who he is in response to that?
Yeah, and I think that so many times in dating scenarios, I was talking to my friends about this. Like, I think that sometimes when it's the wrong person, the games have to be played, right? Because it's the wrong person. And you're like, I can't double
Hmm.
text this, that. But there is some deep truth to like, if it's the right person, nothing that you do is going to be able to take that away. And for me, I haven't dated someone seriously like in a long time, probably since my ex-boyfriend. And I remember before him, everything was a game before that. And then when you find the right person, it dissolves. It's like there's no
Hmm.
games anymore. It feels right. You're desiring them, they're desiring you, and all of that goes away. And so I think that sometimes we have to, like, whoever's dating that fuck boy and you're like, you know, playing the game, you probably don't need to play a game with the right person. Like, it's just going to be easy and you're going to be self expressed and you're not going to feel self conscious because they're going to bring that secure part out of you. And, I think that dating is such a good playing field. Like that's what I have to always remember for myself and what I tell even my friends when we're dating is like this is a game. It's like it doesn't matter. Let's just have fun
Hmm.
because at the end of the day we do
Hmm.
take it so seriously and like want to do like the right text and this and that and it's like at the end of the day
Hmm.
those small minute details really are not going to matter for the right person.
Exactly. And like you're saying, this is for fun. It's like we all have that inner child. We just want to play. You see the man in front of you, no matter how sophisticated and whatever he seems, he has an inner child that wants to play, that wants to come out and play. And like, how can we break down these walls of seriousness and just like allow ourselves to connect in the sandbox?
Totally, totally. And even for me, like on the couple dates that I've been on in the last few months, like I'm curious if you have a list or you make a list, but like I had this list and I do make lists because I'm a pretty specific manifester. And there was one thing on the list where I really desire to date another entrepreneur because I think that as an entrepreneur, you just have there's just certain traits that come along with it. You have to be self-disciplined, self-motivated, like you're just a certain type of person. That's kind of like my
Yeah.
belief. And so these first few people though, they weren't entrepreneurs, but I was like trying to stay open. I was like I'm very aware of my ego and I'm like, okay, like maybe they don't need to be entrepreneurs. If they love their job, whatever, then who knows? I dated two of them that were not entrepreneurs, and both of them were not passionate about their work. They weren't looking to make a change. And it resonated so bad with me. Like, I was like, my entire life is helping people do something that they love. Like, that's literally what I do for a career. Right. And so, for me to date someone who doesn't do what they love is just so out of integrity for me. And it like gave me more data. And so, it's funny because one of the things that my friends and I say is like, whenever we're considering sending a text message or we're like, should we do this? We're just like, it's just more data. We just say it's data because like when we just say it's more data, it's like, it gives you the information that you need. And with that new point of view, you're going to be able to make the right decision from there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that alignment on even if the man is not an entrepreneur, he can have a job that, he's passionate about and that,
Exactly.
is
That's what I
it
was
feels
open
like
to.
he's serving the world.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And but you were able to see, through your conversations that, oh, these don't align. It's like one thing to want to be with an entrepreneur because they have a lot of money or something like that, and
Yeah.
like my boyfriend and I are like very much in the building stages of, entrepreneurship. And it's like, we're going through the trenches together. And I wanted someone who was in that phase of life with
Hmm.
me. And yeah, money is nice, but it's not everything, And so
Sure.
it's like, okay, what is it that we really want? What is it that we really resonate on and can support each other through and at least have the same vision, desire, the way you want, the ways of
Hmm.
thinking?
And that
It's
was
important.
and like just to, I don't know, just to jam on it for a second, like that was my idea. I was like, well, if they really like their job and they have freedom, then I could do it,
Hmm.
right? But like these
Yeah.
guys were like slaves to their jobs and they didn't have any freedom. And I'm over here like, I don't have a boss. So for you to be just telling me that your boss is telling you that you did a bad job today, like it just like was just not resonant for me. So I think it's so important to not always have to be dating like for the one and reframe it to like, I'm dating for my next lesson to get me to the one, but it doesn't need to be the one always. Like, I think that sometimes we're so end game oriented that it can be hard to enjoy the process. One of my last questions for you, because I have a lot of friends that are, I'm not 30 yet, and I actually don't really have any internal pressure to like get married and have kids. Like, I've just never really had that within me. I've just always kind of been like marching to the beat of my own drum. But it, I know so many of my friends that are like over 30 and they really want kids and they're like kind of hating where they're at. And I know that you're 30 and you thought you were going to have kids. And yeah, I just want to speak to that really quick. Because there's a lot of people on the podcast that I'm sure listen that are like, yeah, I thought I was going to be married by now. I want kids. Time's a ticking. How do I stay in my fucking feminine when I need to have kids like next year? Like what would you say to that? Like, how would you coach them through that?
Yeah, totally. And I'm 34, almost 35. And I went through like my major breakup at 30, and that when I thought I would have kids, by then, and I was like, oh my God. And you think you're starting over or whatever. And it's like, no, you're never starting over. You're actually starting with more of that data about yourself, data more about what you want, more of your desire, giving yourself that opportunity to lean into that. So for the women who are desperate, you have to switch that desperation around. I would say turn it into desire. What is it that you actually desire to be doing? Because you have to get to that point where you have to almost be okay with, if I never meet the man, do I still love my life? Because the man is just you don't actually want the man. You want the experience of the man. And when you can
The
fill yourself up
joy.
with that
Yeah.
experience first, yes, that's when you're the point of attraction for the man. And so it's looking at these deeper layers of like, why do you think you can't have the man? Why, like, what's holding you? Like, what are the stories that would come up for you? What are the beliefs? Why does dating feel like a struggle? Do you think it is a struggle? Why do you think it's not possible just to meet a man tomorrow and be married in 6 months? Like, is that even a fathomable possibility to you? Or is it like, no, I have to, date someone and, we have to be together for 2 years? Whoa, like 2 years, like why? Like I started to break down all those rules that I had on what it should look like to build a relationship with someone. And the thing is, the more that you know yourself, the more that you trust yourself and just can express yourself, the faster you can create an authentic connection with someone. And you will know in your body that it feels good, like what feels good for you. You are trusting that, whether or not it works out, that you've got you and that you feel good. And you're going to know that if it's not this man, you're going to realign to the next man.
Mhm.
So Abraham Hicks says, you can't get there from there. So this desperation energy is just attracting more desperation energy. So you're going to keep attracting probably misaligned
Or
men,
you
or you're
can't
just
get there from
pushing them.
here, right? Or is it you can't get there
Yeah,
from there? I think it's you
something
can't
like
get
that.
them
But
from
it's like,
here. You got to go there. Yeah.
and so we have to change your experience of here right now and draw that experience to you. That's how you become that point of attraction. So you have to change your energy here and now, get out of that desperation, which I would say lean into the desire, look at the rules and the things that, you're not permissioning yourself to do, to have, to be, and you have to enjoy the journey. I know you say this a lot too. It's like it's the joys in the process, it's in the journey. And you have to kind of treat dating as play and have fun with it.
Mhm.
And just like we had started saying, this awareness and, dating is this lens of growth, it's a tool to use. And there's like, again, it's not the man that you want. And it's like you only desire a relationship because you desire more, to know more of yourself. And the same can be said true with business too. You only desire the business because you desire to know more of yourself, because it's the point at which you're bouncing off. You're meant to be triggered. You're meant to have these things come up so that you can be aware and choose for yourself. Oh, is that what I choose to believe? Oh, how do I feel differently about that? Oh, why is this emotion coming up? What's the thought behind it?
What do you think are the biggest beliefs that you adopted that helped you attract your man? Like you kind of talked a lot
Mm,
about beliefs and like how we have to look at our beliefs. Like, do you think you'd have to be dating for 2 years? And for me, you said you were like, do you think that you need to go on more dates or like just get another one quality date? Like, what are some beliefs that everyone can adopt that are going to help them be in the energy with open door energy and just attract their correct partner?
yeah. So I think the mega master belief is all possibilities exist. So start leaning into that and kind of contemplating, like, oh, what would that mean? What are the possibilities that I might think are out of reach or unattainable? And can I start to believe that they're there for me? I also was believing I can meet a man anytime, anywhere.
Ooh,
And
I like that one.
yeah. Yeah, because it's true. And that feeling good is the way that, you're going to be open to any of these possibilities anytime, anywhere. The belief that men love me, protect me, and provide for me. And providing does not
Mm.
have to be monetarily, providing emotionally, spiritually, physically, that's having this like resonance of like, okay, do we have a shared desire and beliefs, and how we want to live our lives and what we're doing together? Because I think that when we can really change how we see men too, and believing that every man is like, okay, at his core, he wants to love me, protect me, and provide for me. Maybe he's got some layers in the way that, aren't allowing him to act that way today, but it takes them, it we stop holding it against them essentially. We have more compassion for them and we trust in the fact that we deserve that we're worthy of a man who loves, protects, and provides. So those would be like the few, because it's like anytime, anywhere. What's the type of man? He loves, protects, provides. All possibilities exist. Like start to play
Mm.
with those because those cover a lot of areas. And then believing yourself to be a worthy woman too, that you can have
Desirable,
exactly what
worthy.
you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And I think the last thing that we forgot to touch on is, do you believe in lists?
Like a manifestation list of like
Yeah, like
list.
do you have your clients make lists or do you think that's not important?
I have them make a list of what they want, but then we focus on how she wants to feel. So, like, if you
Mm.
want these things, how do you want to feel? I had a woman ask me one time, okay, well, if I'm manifesting a man, can I put that I want him to have six-pack abs and like, his attractiveness? And I was like, well, let's look at that. What is six-pack abs actually mean? What are you actually wanting from that? Does that mean that he's an active guy, that he's fit and that he cares about his body and he cares about the food that he puts into himself? Because there's going to be a man with six-pack abs out there that's just drinking energy drinks all day. Is that the man that you want? Or do you want the man who is caring about what goes in his body and, caring about being active? And so that's more of this value based. Okay, so I want someone who values, their health and fitness. And so when you can start to kind of soften the list a little bit rather than it being like, it must look like this, it's like, okay, well, what is it truly? What's really behind that? Well, how do you want to feel with this man? Do you want to do activities with this man? Do you want to be cooking healthy meals with this man? So looking at those things that get us out of these like strict lists and needing to check all the boxes.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because I think the boxes uh, don't open us into possibilities. They keep us from, it's kind of an ego based thing. And it's like, well, what do you want to feel?
And that's
What are
what's hard
you,
about the apps too. It's like they just become a checkbox. And so instead when you're in person, it's like you're just feeling into like, do I desire this person or do I not? Or do I need
exactly,
more data?
exactly. And exactly. And the apps, another thing we didn't mention before that I could have said is that like they kind of put us in judgment mode of I need to judge this person on the spot right here, right now. And it's like, I mean, I think a lot of people, the women that I've talked to, that are in relationships, it's like I would have swiped past this person on a dating app. But once you know them in person, that's why I think in person connection is such a precious place to really connect with a man and see how you feel with him and feel his groundedness or his lack thereof. And then therefore you have more data.
Mm, I love it.
And if you're going to use a dating app, get in front of that man as soon as you can, see how you feel.
I love that. I love that. Gosh, this was a value packed episode. Thank you so much, Lauren, for giving us all the expertise and all the tips and tricks to open our energy and attract the love that we desire. Where can people find you, work with you? What do you have going on right now? Give us all the juice.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren Likes It Like That on Instagram and TikTok, taken from the song I Like It Like That. So Lauren Likes It Like That.
Love.
And this month, we're in October. Later this month, I am doing a 4 week group program. It's called Overflow to Receive. So this is about building up that energy, getting you into this state of receiving so that you're in love, joy, desire more often than not. So we're kind
Yes.
of debunking some of these lower vibrations and beliefs and things that are limiting you from the possibilities. So Overflow to Receive is happening mid-October. Details you can find on Lauren Likes It Like That on my Instagram.
Yay! We'll have everything linked below so you guys can check her out, stalk her, follow her, join her programs. But thank you so much, Lauren. This was such an amazing episode. I learned so much. I know the audience did too. And I can't wait to connect again soon.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
All right. Bye, everyone.